In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a super fun and fabulous 4th of July ice cream cake. Hi there, my name is Carly and welcome to my channel Adventures in Yum. Today I am so excited because it is all about making a fantastic 4th of July ice cream cake. This cake includes red, white, and blue velvet marbled cake, apple pie ice cream, Swiss meringue buttercream, and fun decorations. One of my decorations includes a popping surprise, so make sure that you stick around to find out what it is. I'm super excited to make this cake, so let's get started. First, we're going to make the marbled velvet cake sponge. Take a large mixing bowl and place a strainer sifter on top. First, you're going to add 2½ cups of all-purpose flour, followed by 1 teaspoon of baking soda, ½ teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of unsweetened dark cocoa powder, and finally 1 teaspoon of salt. Now you're going to sift these ingredients. You might need to use a spoon to help you out. And then give that a quick whisk to make sure that all of the dry ingredients are thoroughly combined. Next, take a large mixing bowl and add 1½ cups of granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon of white distilled vinegar, and 3 large eggs at room temperature. Now whip this mixture until it lightens in color, about 3 to 5 minutes. I usually use a hand mixer, but this time I decided to whisk by hand, so I had to whip it for at least 5 minutes. Next, add 1 cup of buttermilk at room temperature. Give this a quick whisk to thoroughly incorporate it into the mixture. Scrape down the sides of the bowl regularly to make sure that everything is properly mixed. Now add 1 cup of mayonnaise, and then ½ cup of vegetable oil. Whisk these together to ensure that it is fully mixed. Add 1/2 of the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients and mix until just combined. You do not want to overmix your batter because you will develop too much gluten in the flour. This will result in a tough cake texture, and what we're looking for is a tender crumb. Repeat this process with the remaining dry ingredients. Then divide the batter evenly between 3 bowls. Add about 2 to 3 teaspoons of white icing color to one bowl and mix until just combined. Then add about 1 to 2 teaspoons of royal blue food gel to the second bowl and mix until just combined. Finally, add about 2 to 3 teaspoons of red food color gel to the third bowl and mix until just combined. For a typical velvet cake, you would add the food gel to the wet ingredients at the beginning, but we want a pretty marbled cake, so we're going to add it after all the ingredients are mixed together. You will need to prep 3 6-inch cake pans with butter and flour. First, make sure that you have a thin layer of butter coating the entire inside surface of the pan. Then add flour to coat the butter. Tap out any excess flour. Now add a little of each colored cake batter at a time. Make sure to add them in different spots around the pan so that the colors are nice and spread out when we marble it. And finally, use a kitchen tool such as a butter knife to make swirls through the batter. I'm using my metal cake tester. Once you're done swirling the cake batter together, pop these in the oven and bake until a cake tester comes out clean, about 30 minutes. After you're done baking them, let them sit for a few minutes in the pans and then pop them out in order to let them cool thoroughly. You do not have to put them in the refrigerator before cutting them, but I recommend it because it ensures the cake will cut more cleanly. Make sure that if you do pop them in the refrigerator to wrap them in plastic cling film or place them in an airtight container. When leveling the cake, make sure to use a serrated knife like a bread knife because it will cut more cleanly. For this cake, I'm using a Wilton cake cutter. This is a pretty useful tool if you're concerned about making an even cut across the top because it has little feet that sit on the counter and assist you with making a nice flat top.
Next, we're going to cut the ice cream into circles, approximately 4.5 inches in diameter. If you'd like to see how I made this apple pie ice cream, make sure that you visit my vanilla ice cream video, which I'll put a link in the description for. After you make the vanilla apple pie ice cream, you just put it into a sheet pan, and that's what we're going to cut right now.
Use a cookie cutter or biscuit cutter that is approximately 4.5 inches in diameter. Cut 2 circles in the ice cream. I did 3 so that I could have one as a backup. You may need to add some padding like I did with this paper towel so the cutter does not hurt your hands. This ice cream was pretty solid, so I had to use a paring knife to help cut the rest of the ice cream. Then after you're done, you're going to set the ice cream discs on a separate tray and pop them back into the freezer until you're ready to assemble.
And now for the buttercream. I personally prefer a Swiss meringue buttercream over an American style buttercream. What's the difference? Well, a Swiss meringue buttercream utilizes a meringue as its base, which is egg whites and granulated sugar, whereas an American style buttercream just uses powdered sugar. American style buttercreams, for that reason, are often considered cloyingly sweet. So both of them are widely used in baking, but I just personally prefer Swiss meringue buttercream because it's a lot more balanced. I currently use Martha Stewart's recipe for Swiss meringue buttercream, so I'll make sure to put a link in the description so you can check out the video. Next, we're going to make our cake toppers so that they set while we're assembling our cake. These cake toppers are super easy because they only require 2 ingredients: Wilton candy melts and culinary crystals. Do you remember Pop Rocks candy? Well, culinary crystals are basically an unflavored pop rock that you can add to desserts and other items to have some popping fun. I'll make sure to put a link in the description so that you can try them out for yourself in your culinary adventures.
You will need red, white, and blue candy melts. Take your first color and melt it in short increments, approximately 15 to 20 seconds at a time, in the microwave. You're going to pour about half of it onto the sheet tray and spread it into a thin layer that'll take up 1/3 of the tray. Sprinkle a generous amount, about 1 tablespoon of culinary crystals onto the candy melt layer, and then gently spread the remaining candy melts onto a thin layer on top of the crystals. Next, add silver edible glitter and edible gold stars to the top of the candy melts before it hardens. This is optional, but these edible decorations really make this firework bark pop. Repeat this process with the other candy melt colors. Once you are done making the bark, set it aside and let it harden. I do not recommend placing this in the freezer to harden because the moisture from the freezer makes the culinary crystals pop like crazy when you try to break it apart. Seriously, unless you want the culinary crystals to fly at you and all over your counter, do not put it in the freezer. The refrigerator is okay.
Now that we have all of our components completed, let's make this cake. So the first thing that we're going to do is put down a little bit of buttercream on the board. This will ensure that our cake has something to stick to so it doesn't slide around at all. Now we're going to take our first cake layer and set it in the middle of the board. I like to turn it around and make sure that it looks even, adjusting it as I go. Okay, so that looks good. So now we're going to put our first layer of ice cream on. So obviously with the ice cream cakes, you got to work really quickly to make sure that this does not melt too much while you're working with it. I want to make sure it's nice and even on the cake layer. Okay, we're going to put some buttercream right around this ice cream layer. That's going to hold that in. Okay, and next we're going to take our second cake layer and set it right on top. I like to go down a little bit and see if it looks nice and even. You want it to be nice and as level as possible. Because if you have a lower level that's not level, then it's going to keep just getting more tilted as you go. Okay, it's looking pretty good to me. Okay, so now cake layer number 2. Set that right in the middle. Make sure it's nice and even as possible. And take our buttercream. Go right around. Okay. And obviously last is our third cake layer. We're going to flip this one so it has a nice flat top as we do so. Just like this. Make sure it's nice and level. This is looking pretty good. All right, so now we're going to crumb coat the cake. This simply means that we're putting a layer of buttercream on the outside of the cake so that it'll capture any crumbs that come off of the cake while you're doing this. This ensures that your outer layer of buttercream is going to be nice and smooth and not have any cake pieces in it whatsoever. You don't need very much, so this should actually be plenty, probably even a little bit extra. Oopsie. If you need to, while you're scraping off the icing, just put it into an extra side bowl and you can use that later to make cake pops or for another project. Okay, now we're just going to clean up our cake board a little bit. And then we're going to pop this in the freezer for about 20 minutes just so it can firm up a little bit and we can put the outer layer of buttercream on. Now that the cake is firmed up in the freezer, we're going to put our outer layer of buttercream on it. I decided to dye my buttercream black today so that it would really make the colors pop and kind of look like fireworks at night. Now that our outer buttercream is done, I'm going to add some black glitter for some sparkle. And now we're going to add red, white, and blue sprinkles to the outside of this cake to make it look like fireworks bursting in the sky.
I decided to use small red, white, and blue pearl sprinkles to make my fireworks. They're really tiny, so I had to use tweezers to place them on the side of the cake. I kept some fireworks one color, while making others multicolored so that there would be a beautiful variety of fireworks. I added red, white, and blue Jimmy or stick sprinkles to create a fun border on the bottom of the cake. After adding a mixture of all the sprinkles to the top, I broke the bark into pieces and pressed them into the buttercream on top of the cake.
Oh my gosh, you guys, this is only my second ice cream cake ever. I am so excited how this turned out. It looks so good, and I can't wait to cut into it.
Okay, so the ice cream was a bit firm, so the struggle was real to cut this cake, but I eventually got through it. If you like this really cool knife that I'm using, it's actually part of a Galaxy knife set, and it's found on Amazon, and I'll make sure to put a link in the description below if you want to get one too. And there it is! Oh, it looks so cool. I'm so excited to try it.
Now that I've cut the cake and I have my gold sparkly fork, let's dig into this cake. This is so good. The cake is really, really nice. It's nice and simple, and it goes really, really well with apple pie ice cream, which tastes exactly like apple pie. It is so, so good. And now I'm gonna try a piece of the fizzy bark that was on top that is a super fun popping surprise. The bark is really good. It's nice and simple. I don't know if you can hear this, but my mouth is fizzing all over the place. I love this cake for so many reasons. The really fun marble colored cake inside, the apple pie ice cream that is delicious and it tastes exactly like apple pie. The really fun sprinkles on the outside to mimic 4th of July fireworks, because honestly, that's my favorite part of 4th of July is the fireworks at nighttime. I've always loved that. And then the popping surprise bark on top, that whether you're 5 or you're 95, you will love this, and it automatically turns you into a little kid because it's just fizzy and it makes you just kind of giggle and laugh, and it's just a really, really fun thing to eat. So I definitely recommend this cake. The entire recipe will be on my website at adventuresandyum.net. And please, if you make this cake, let me know in the comments below. Tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see your pictures. This cake is so much fun, and I hope that you enjoy. If you like this video, please make sure to like and share. I put out new videos every Friday, so please subscribe to my channel for more fantastic treats and eats. Thank you so much for joining me today, and click right here for another great food adventure. I can't wait to see you for my next food video.